Season 2, Episode 6. Wait. Season 2, Episode 5.
Hello.
My name is Claude, they, them, and this is my mom, Jacqueline, she, her.
Hello.
And she's the sex therapist.
Yes.
You're listening to My Mom is the Sex Therapist.
Yep. And this is my daughter.
Yeah. We're coming at you on unceded Gadigal land. Always was, always will be. We'd like to extend respect to all Aboriginal people joining us today. So today, we're halfway through Season 1.
Halfway?
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And it is winter. Winter alert.
It is winter here.
And in this winter vibes, we have a sexy sex episode today.
We do indeed.
Last time was therapy.
Last time was getting into the simmer zone.
Yeah, but it was really about like lifestyle choices.
Well, yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it was quite, you're a sex therapist. Last time was therapist, this time is sex.
Well, it all sort of goes together. I'm very holistic. I don't think you can do one without the other because there's no point talking about sex if you don't know how to get there.
Exactly.
If you don't set up a sex possible lifestyle.
Exactly.
Or a sex probable lifestyle is what we really want.
But this is we've got quite the practical sex episode is what I'm
this is
trying
what
to say.
you do once you're simmering.
Yeah. But before we get too into it, leave you wanting more. What was your erotic moment of the week?
My erotic moment? Well, I was just thinking actually about the entire weekend because we're recording this on a Monday. I just had this great weekend because I have been traveling an awful lot lately.
Mm-hmm.
The last few months, I've been every second weekend, if not 3 weekends in a row, I've been away from my beautiful home. So this weekend was just a time to just chill and relax. And my lovely chappy here, Mr. G.
Mm-hmm.
We're just doing some really cool things that we love to do together. Slow lingering morning moments, shall we say. Breakfast in bed plus other activities. Gardening, doing the jigsaw, cooking. Well, he cooks, he's the chef, and I eat, which is even better. Dancing. Nice. It was just definitely simmering the whole way through, like it was just a really nice, flowy, chill weekend. And it just was full of that erotic zest in that really kind of heightened, chill way. That was good. There you go. That's my erotic weekend.
The vagal tone.
Yes.
That was vagal toning.
A vagal toning. We're an alert relaxation with a frisson of the erotic life force.
What is the active noun for vagal tone? Active verb? Active.
What's the verb?
What's
vagal toning?
Yeah. What's the verb?
I think you're doing what so many people do these days and you've turned a noun into a verb.
Yeah.
Vagal toning.
But what would you say?
Having your sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves in alignment. Equal activation.
Yeah, sounds like your parasympathetic and sympathetic nerves are in alignment there.
Let's just call it vagal toning. As I like to think about erotic living.
Nice. Well,
what about you, my dear?
Well, big announcement.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've stopped painting just abstract faces.
Yes,
I know.
I've seen this.
I've expanded my repertoire outside. I was painting only faces for like
years,
4 years or something. Anyway, now I paint flowers.
Yes.
Wow.
That's so beautiful.
Nice? Yeah, and it's very awesome. It's so cool to do something different. And it was like, because I was doing because my art making practice is very brain off, no thoughts.
Yeah.
Flow state. Wow, pretty picture now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw this one good artist who was talking about how she layers things. She paints like bits of ground and stuff, like little landscape stuff, but it's just like a square of ground and it's really detailed.
Uh-huh.
And she starts with like orange because that's the dirt, and then she does
Mhm.
random black and brown like
Mhm.
stripes as the sticks, and then she like actually builds the layers like that. And I thought that was really interesting.
Interesting. Yes.
And it was very inspiring. So I was like, I kind of want to paint some flowers, and then painted flowers, and it's so cool. It's very fun. And it also brings a lot of presence into my day to day because I paint the flowers, but I'm like going off the mental image of what a flower looks like in my brain.
Yeah.
So when I'm walking around, I'm like, oh my God, wow, isn't that a nice flower? Mental picture, ching, And I brought some flowers home yesterday that I'm going to paint later today.
The little pink eucalyptus flowers, gum flowers.
Yeah, it was crazy.
They're so pretty.
They just fell on the floor. I was like, hello.
Hello.
Anyway, so
Thank you, nature.
I like it because new, fun, exciting, dopamine, woo. But then also lots of presence in nature.
Lots of presence through the practice of being creative and connecting to nature. Love it. That is so beautiful.
Yeah,
so beautiful. We need these practices, these pleasures.
Yeah, and
in our lives.
I paint on recycled core flutes because it's really awesome and
all of the values are lining up as well.
Yeah,
so important. If you're not being true to your values, it's not going to feel right, and you're not going to be able to get into that presence, the embodied flow.
Yeah, and it's just like 4 hours go by, and it's like, oh, this painting now. How did that happen?
That is beautiful. I just had a thought for those of our listeners who are busy, might be in a phase of their lives, unlike you and I, before family, empty nester, who don't necessarily have those hours for that. So find whatever you can. Find space where you can sink into what you're doing and be very present. So good for the nervous system, so good for the mind, so good for feeling into this erotic connection with life. So be there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting in like if we're still doing this podcast in like 8 years or something when I have kids. And I'm like, guys, no time for painting at all.
8 years? I want grandchildren before then.
Well, you have other kids to rely on.
I know I have other kids to rely on. It's fine. 8 years is fine. I've got too much on. I'm enjoying the pre-grandmother lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't have them too soon.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on from children to the topic of the day, which is
drum roll.
I fucked that time. I didn't do that well.
We should leave this in.
Anyways, the topic of the day is how to expand your sexual play.
Yes.
Very important.
It
very
is
important.
So important.
Because one thing that always comes up in progressive, sex-positive spaces is the mystery of how to have sex outside the narrow lens of mainstream norms and porn. In this episode, we're not here to give you a step-by-step guide to sexual gratification. Instead, we're diving into how to figure out what you actually want, how to express that safely, and how to bring it into your connections with your partner or partners so that pleasure and intimacy feel authentic, empowered, and real. Woo!
Beautifully put, my darling.
Yeah, I wrote that.
I'd just say how to not be boring in bed, but I love what you wrote.
Well, because I don't want people to think that we're just going to be like, hey, so step number 1.
Absolutely.
Take the clothes off. Yeah.
It's not step by step. And, this is partly why we stress so much that, like the presence, the sinking in, the being self-aware, because that's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. Who am I? What do I want? Where am I at right now? And where are you?
A quote. So we really good at talking today. So if you don't know, our episode themes are based on blogs and that you have written. I'll link it in the links.
Yes, the Love Life blog. I have been writing it since 2010 and there are now 371 articles that I have personally written. So there's a lot of good information in there.
This particular blog, I'll link it below
On my
for
website.
further reading. Yes, but a quote that I thought was a great summary for the vibes.
Yeah.
Now, some people are firmly in the meat and 3 veg camp, and others have had a good look at the whole menu and sampled widely. I'm talking to all of you in between. Some of you might not even know what's on the menu or where to find a menu, so this is particularly for you.
I love what I write. So essentially, yes, that is who we're talking to now, which I think is actually most people. Like, we like having sex, it's okay, but, sometimes it'd be nice to do something a little bit different. And that varies for everyone. It's not like, oh, you must have these sexual activities or you're not cool or you're not whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, what else can we do? Like in the quote from me, like it's like food. Like, yeah, look, if you're happy with meat and 3 veg, fine. A bit of vanilla ice cream with tinned peaches afterwards. That's fine. But, if you want to get out the recipe book and think about some other things, then sure.
Yeah. We hate routines. We hate sexual routines.
Well, a lot of people do. Yeah. If you love your sexual routine, then you can just skip to the next episode.
Yeah. If you're satisfied with your play state, don't worry about this.
Yeah.
But when it starts getting a little old, I guess routines isn't the ideal word. I guess it's script. Yes.
We tend to fall into set scripts. And there is sort of these standard scripts that people do. And you can often find yourself, like kind of like, particularly if you're, one's got a vagina and one's got a penis, you're sort of racing off to the intercourse and so forth. Because that's the KPI. Got to get to that. Got to have your orgasms. But if you're moving more into this kind of non-linear play space that we talk about a lot, then it's just like, well, what are we feeling in the moment? What do we want to create here? So it's very much a co-created thing. So, but you have to ask yourself, why? Yeah, that's a really important one. Because too often people are just like, oh, we could do this or we could do that. And I'm like, well, why? Why?
Yeah, I love that they're good at the ideas though.
Absolutely. And we'll
do you think most people have lots of ideas, or do you think it's pretty
I think it's pretty varied.
Yeah, right.
I think it's pretty varied. And again, a lot of people, everyone just goes straight to the genitals and straight to like very well-known things.
Yeah.
Right? And focusing more on the behavior rather than the experience. So I want to just stress the why for a moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the why is so important.
Tell me why.
You don't want to be doing it just because, oh, well, we should. Oh, shouldn't we? Isn't that what people do, right? As I said, if you like your standard script, that's fine. You don't have to expand it.
Yeah.
But if you do want to expand it, then you need to ask yourself why. And this is all of this, well, who am I? What am I wanting? Right? If you're wanting, more pleasure or more excitement or, it's just a fun thing to do with your partner. So get into the why, because you're going to be starting to come up with ideas and suggestions, and you don't want to fall into, oh yeah, we should do that because that's cool.
So you think why predates the what? For sure.
To some extent, the why we want to expand, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then as you're starting to look at the what's, then it's like, well, how do I feel about it?
Okay.
Why would I want to do this? But you don't, I guess the thing I want to really stress here is you don't have to do this. So if you are going to do this, you need to understand why you personally want to do it and why your partner wants to do it.
Yeah.
So that you're aligned, so you're on the same page. Otherwise, you can very easily fall into one just succumbing to what the other's suggesting.
Yeah,
or thinking that they should. And sometimes I see clients doing things where they're both doing stuff and then they realize that actually neither of them really want to do it. They just think they should. You'd be surprised at how often I come across. I'm like, why? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
I can tell that you're not really into this.
Yeah.
Like for instance, the classic one was this couple that was getting up setting the alarm for 5 o'clock every morning to have sex. And I could tell on their faces that they weren't really into it. I'm like, so why are you doing this? And they're like, well, we shouldn't we? We have to have sex. So when else can we do it? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you really need to get into your why here.
Yeah. Because then it's like once you interrogate that, is it a societal pressure or is it something that I actually want?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's also going to help guide you in the what and the how,
Yeah.
right? Because the how is really important as well.
Just some examples. Well, why would someone expand their sexual play?
Well, generally for more pleasure.
Yep, that's a pretty good reason.
Yeah, right. So we've spent a lot of time focusing on the connection, right? That's what the simmer zone and all that sort of stuff was about. So keeping the connection going, you have to keep the connection going all through all of this. Like we don't sort of get to a point and then stop the connection, right? So keeping on going with that, and then upping the pleasure element, right? Because sex is connection through pleasure, the more pleasure there is between you, ultimately the more connection there will be as well. The more happy hormones, the more oxytocin, and the more
a feedback loop.
Yes.
Got it. Are there any other reasons
why you'd want to expand your sexual play? Well, look, we can also look into, being more personally self-expressed, right? Our sexual play is a great place to express ourselves.
Yeah.
You were talking about your painting earlier, right? So, and I was mentioning my gardening, which is also part of my creative expressive play. When you take this approach to your sexual interaction, rather than seeing it as just something that you do, right? Like sometimes I talk to people and it's almost like they do it like they brush their teeth. Like, it's a good thing to do, so we do it.
Yeah.
Have I ever mentioned this woman who told me that she regularly masturbated in the shower? So I think she did it every day because she'd got it into her head that it was a good thing to do to have an orgasm every day. So she would dutifully have her orgasm in the shower every day. I'm like, God, I'm like your water bills.
But capitalism has like that idea of ticking things off so you can be successful, you know?
Yeah. So that is not expressing your sexuality as...
No, that's like a shame thing. That's like, this is what I need to do in order to have like worth. Or like to be valid and...
Well, I think for her it was more like a health thing. She's
like, I can't be healthy until I've done this. That's why it's like a shame thing. She's like shaming herself into the action so that she can achieve health.
Well, yeah, because when she admitted it, she actually didn't want to admit it. Like there was definitely some shame in there. And there was some shame around that.
It's similar to like, I say shame because it's similar to how people like shame themselves into going to the gym because they're like,
yes.
You're lazy, you're so lazy,
Right, yes.
You need to go to the gym in order to be healthy. Where this is like, you want to be this sexually woke woman, well, you better have orgasms in the shower every day and then you've achieved it.
Yeah.
But whereas like, you don't actually need to do anything to be a sexually woke woman except be a woman.
Well, just express what is your authentic truth.
Yeah.
Like that couple I mentioned who were setting the alarm for 5 o'clock in the morning. Not authentic.
No.
That was not authentic. Not pleasurable.
Yeah.
Just sort of like this dutiful thing that you do because you think you should, like brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
Rather than a more creative expression of self and co-creation of intimacy and beauty and love and goodness and erotic fantasticness.
Yeah. I just hate that woman in the shower was like using it because like ultimately it's supposed to be like a really nice, awesome, pleasurable thing, but she's using it as like this way to be like, you have to orgasm in the shower to be healthy.
Yes.
That's
and
so sad.
Tick the box. Good. There was a good ending to that story though.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I was working with them as a couple and I think she'd come to a women's retreat if I remember. And that's where she started talking about this. And when she saw everyone else's look, she was kind of like, oh, don't you do that? I was like, no. But actually, to use that person as an example, because I remember her and her husband quite well. They saw me for a little while and they went from sex being, well, on his part, I suppose, entitlement in a way, like not a horrible man by any means. He wanted her to enjoy it and stuff, but it was just like, well, I can get my penis ready whenever you are. And,
that's what we were talking about last episode.
Yeah. And for her, it was a lot more kind of like this performative stuff. Like I got to do stuff to be the right kind of person, to be a sexual person, rather than figuring out what was her truth.
Yeah.
Which she did. And actually, she changed some of her masturbatory practices.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's all coming back to me now, like she actually was using it a little bit to get in the mood herself. I'm not saying everyone
Okay.
should do this, but it can be helpful because also, she had kids and a busy life, working, mum, all that sort of stuff. She'd go up to the bedroom first. And apparently they had a very nice bedroom. And, she'd play some music and she'd do a little bit of self-pleasuring for herself. Not to get herself ready for her husband.
No.
But to get into this kind of relaxed
Recenter.
vibe. Yeah, if she needed to read a book for a little while first, have a bath or something. Yeah, like just to get really present and engage with herself. And then it would be like, so darling, if you'd like to come and join me.
Slay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice. I can imagine seeing how that would work when you've like spent all day taking care of other people. You're just like, give me a fucking second just to take some time for myself.
Oh, yeah. It is so very important.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Was it from the women's workshop that she had those changes?
Look, I can't remember, to be honest.
Right.
But, because they had sessions together and
right.
they did a lot of stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, no, that's a really good story. And, and part of all of that was actually talking about their sexual interests, right? So this is very much what we're talking about here, right? If you have ideas, then you need to be able to share them with your partner. Right? Now, sometimes that's coming from, I don't really know, but this is what's not really working. Right? So sometimes you'll be starting from there. But what is so important is that you listen to each other. You're not judgmental.
Really?
of
I
each
thought
other.
you could just say what you wanted and then like just walk away.
You've not been paying attention to our own podcast.
You have to listen to each other?
Yes. And you have to listen without judgment.
We listen and we don't judge. You don't know what that means, but a lot of people will know what that means.
Because we're often scared to talk about what our desires are.
Yes.
Right?
It is scary.
Yeah. Including things that we don't want or we don't like or whatever, right? It's not just what we want, it's also what we don't want, right? And we can be hesitant to say these things for fear of upsetting our partner. We don't want to hurt them, or we don't want to force them to do something they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm always saying, share kindly and respectfully. And then leave it up to the other person to respond in their own way, right? Don't prejudge what you think your partner's going to say or feel or want. Just say your truth kindly and respectfully. And in this case, maybe a little sexily. And then they'll come back with their thoughts on the topic as well. Positive, negative, things that do appeal, things that they might be a little wary about or scared or like, whoa, actually, I'm not sure that's my thing, sweetheart, but thanks for sharing. Because I've had clients who've sometimes they've been sent by their partners, particularly if they've got more out there type fetishes and stuff like that, to be fixed because they've got a problem.
Yes.
Because their partner has just been absolutely horrified. Yeah. I mean, I'm actually working with this lovely young man at the moment whose wife has left him because he shared his fantasy with her and she thought it was disgusting and ended the marriage.
Yeah, see, it's like stories like that where you're like, makes sense why people are a little bit scared to share.
Yeah, yes.
One fantasy marriage ended. That's quite high stakes.
Yeah, no, I mean, there can be really high stakes here. So, but let's just, let's go through some examples of how you might expand your sexual play.
So very, very important before you do start expanding your sexual play is it needs to be safe. For you and for your partner.
Yes. Yeah, look, safety is paramount. Without safety, obviously physical safety, but also emotional safety, because without that, you can't enjoy yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And you also can't express yourself properly.
Yeah, exactly. So look, anything that you're doing needs to be consensual. You need to both agree to it. It needs to be legal, right? So only between adult humans, please, living adult humans.
Well, I mean, yeah. But like,
and
I would break into somewhere and have sex for like a thing one time. So it doesn't have to be like, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't promote that on the podcast.
Well, when I'm saying legal, I'm kind of thinking, not with minors.
Yes, that legality. Pay attention to that one.
You want to break into well, yeah, because something that some people like is to like have sex in public places or do stuff like that. Like sometimes. So there can be some very discreet pushing of boundaries, perhaps pushing of rules. Yes, we'll leave that up to you.
Yes.
And the other thing has to be sane. Like it has to be sane. So don't do anything that could potentially kill you or damage you or harm you. Right? So,
well, unless you want to, right? Because like people do knife play and stuff all the time.
Yeah, but they do it carefully.
Right. So you're saying sane as in?
Yeah, as in like don't do any of that asphyxiation thing.
Yeah, right.
Right? Like no, people die from that. And no orgasm is worth dying for. Right? If you feel you need an orgasm so badly that you have to almost die for it, then you need to look at your life.
Yeah.
You need to make your life more satisfying. Yeah?
So, what is it? Consensual.
Consensual, legal, and sane.
Yeah. Nice.
And that is a pretty broad range of things.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that I want to say that can be really helpful, and certainly if you're really pushing your boundaries, essential. And a lot of what we've learnt about how to expand your play comes from the kink world, the BDSM
kink
world.
Community.
Yeah, because they do some pretty out there stuff, And the only way that they can do that is by doing it very, very safely, right? They're very, very good at safety. And one thing that they have is a safe word. Okay. So they wouldn't do anything before they'd had a really good conversation about it and really understood what, each other was getting out of the experience, any boundaries they've got and so forth, right? And then when they're actually engaging, they have a safe word. Now, there's two ways to do this. One is to have a word that you just would not use.
Yeah.
Right? Like, sure, no means no. However, if you're doing a role play where it's like, oh, no, oh, you wicked man. Oh, no, how could you do this to me? Oh, no. It might actually mean, oh, I'm loving this and I want more, right?
Yeah.
In which case you need to have another word like buttercup, right? So if you're like, oh, no, don't. Oh, actually, buttercup. No, buttercup.
Yeah.
Then it's very clear. And the other thing that you can do is use the traffic light system. And the traffic light system is where you say yellow or amber is for slow down, like starting to get a bit uncomfortable. And it just means, can we have a quick little check-in? In which case you're like, how are we going here? Are we all right? Yeah, let's just slow it down. Or could you loosen the bonds? Or
yeah.
Right?
And I find that like with me, when I heard the traffic light system, I was like, I fucking would never, I wouldn't really, because I was like, it would be awkward. It was like ruin the mood. I would prefer to just like know exactly. But that's not realistic, is it? Anyway, and it doesn't kill the mood at all. It's actually quite nice. Yeah. And I've had very, very rough sex and then had to be like, I really have a cramp. I really have a cramp. And then we like take a break for like 2 minutes and then it's like, okay, are you okay? And then we just lock back in, It's not like it changes the vibe at all.
No.
It's like a nice space that you enter to when you do that.
Yeah, this is why the communication is so important because you want to be able to communicate in the moment. If you need to say yellow, or I didn't get to say red is just like stop. Ow.
Oh, yes, that's important.
Like cramp, red, stop.
Yeah.
Or pain or actually freaking out, whatever it happens to be. Yeah, but when you can say it and do the check-in, a little chat, as part of the erotic play, it actually enhances it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think because I like had it in my brain that I was like, essentially I'm just echoing what you just said, but when you are in that space, it's not a binary of like we're having really rough sex or we're being nice to each other. It's not that, No,
absolutely. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, anything else in life. You might be going at it intensely and then you need to slow down for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going for a long run and you need to stop and walk for a bit. That doesn't mean you've got to stop the run.
Yeah.
You just wait till you've, cooled down a bit and then you can run again if you want.
I just feel like maybe because I was a gymnast and so I was like taught that you need to train, then execute,
Oh, yes. It's got to be perfect. Yes. You failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was just a big moment for me. I remember the first time just being like, hey, excuse me, do you mind if we just, and then I was like, whoa. You did it? Or they did it? What?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
it's crazy that was so mind-blowing, but it was, and it's
Yeah.
like, it is really, and you're so right that it just does make you feel even more connected.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And look, different stages of life. I've got a little smile on my face because I'm thinking, having to do it for rough sex. And I'm kind of like, got to do it because my hip's playing up. Because the thing is that, life does hit you at some point. We're talking about when you have kids, you're having a bit of a session, then the baby starts crying. Is it like, oh, we've got to end it now? Or is it like, hold that thought, it's going to tend to Bob and then I'll be back. And if I'm still imbibing it, then we continue, right? Or when you get to, late middle age, got to own that one. Like your body parts can get in the way. Or, like there's all sorts of reasons why, it's not like some perfect scene, some perfect performative porn scene.
Yeah. So safety before, important.
Well, look, and the other part as well, like if we're talking about expanding your sexual play and you've talked about it beforehand, right? Like if you're thinking that you want to sort of suddenly introduce something, you're not going to sort of like be halfway through and then kind of like, hey, doll, here's the strap on. I'm putting it on now. Bend over, because you might not know if your partner wants to be pegged. Right?
Yeah.
And without the knowledge, you might be, and I'm using, look, lots of people like pegging, but even if you don't even, so pegging is when the woman puts a strap on and then has anal intercourse with her partner.
This is great because you're answering a question that we got on I want my wife to peg me, but I don't know how to bring it up. So,
well, look, there you go.
Listen up.
Yeah. Like, it's not going to work if every time he has sex with her, he's thinking, God, if only she'd get a strap on and tell me to turn over. If only, like, trying to get the mind reading thing. And she's completely oblivious.
Yeah.
Like, might not even know what it is, let alone know that it could be something that she could do. And conversely, like if it was something that she wanted to do and she didn't know if he liked it, you're not just going to suddenly put the strap on, bend over, darling. He'd be like, what the? So you got to talk about it outside.
Yeah.
And have had that discussion about the why. Why would you like pegging? Right.
Yeah.
So he needs to, make the suggestion. Hey, sweetheart, there's something that I've been thinking about and interested about. I'd love to share it with you. I don't know if it's your thing or not, but let's have a chat. Right? And she's prepared. So she's prepared thinking, oh, okay, he might share something that maybe I don't like. So I need to be receptive and non-judgmental. Right. And he might say, I've been thinking about pegging. Right. It's kind of, and she needs to go, oh, okay. And maybe she's never thought about it. Maybe she doesn't even really want to do it. But she needs to be curious. What is it, Carl, that appeals to you about pegging? And he needs to be very clear about why he wants to experience it. Right. And there's all sorts of reasons. And they've got to be real. Like he thinks it would be pleasurable. Yeah.
Hasn't done it before. Wants to try it.
Yeah. Just likes to explore and try new sensations. Maybe they've done a little bit of anal play with him and he likes it. So he wants to see what it's like to have a full phallus in there.
Yeah. Maybe saw it on porn.
Yeah. And it sort of turned him on. Maybe he's read about stimulating the man's P-spot on the inside, right?
P-spot.
The prostate.
Oh,
you can get to the man's prostate through the walls of his anus, right? Maybe it's sort of like he wants to sort of explore being more in the receptive role rather than, to welcome in a phallus rather than being the enterer with his penis. Yeah. So it's important that he shares what it's about.
Yeah.
And then she can share whether it's something like, well, darling, like I've always had this fantasy. I can't believe that. Yes, like let's go out and choose a strap on. Or it might be that she's be like, oh gosh, that's not really my thing, but let me ponder it. Or maybe could we start with just something smaller? We could maybe get a butt plug. I don't know. Or it might be just a hard limit. It might be because we have hard limits and soft limits. Soft limits are, it could be okay in certain circumstances.
We also have hard and soft other things.
Wasn't that was another episode.
What, have I made that joke before?
No. We've talked about soft cock.
Oh, we have.
We've done the penis episode.
Yes, we did do that one.
We did do the penis episode.
Tune in. Yeah. Male bodies. It's actually one of the most popular ones.
It is. I noticed that. That's interesting. Hard limit. And it might be that she's like, Dar, look, it's great that that's what you'd like to do. Totally, respect. But it's just, I just couldn't. I just know doing that just doesn't
not a top.
Turn me on. I just can't. Yeah, not a top. doesn't appeal. Sorry that you're going to miss out on that in your life.
Different clothesline.
What?
Peg.
Oh. So yes, so that like that's how you introduce something. That's how you have the conversation, and from it, you might be yes, let's go. We're both on board with that. It might be look, let's try a modified version, kind of see how we go.
But how would you
no, sorry,
recommend dealing with the disappointment if you suggested something and then your partner was like, nope, not for me?
Yeah, well, look, sadly, disappointment is part of life. Yes, there are many things in life that I'm disappointed that I have missed out on, right? Or there are things that I'm disappointed that I'm never going to have in my life.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's life. Life is full of disappointment, right? And this is one of them.
And I guess you just have to keep talking about it until you find a solution that works for
And I have had people who have said, no, but this is part of who I am. I have to have this thing in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. No, sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're not entitled to any particular sexual act just because you're a human.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to be a co-created thing.
Yeah. Right? Unless you want to pay someone for it.
Well, look, if you think it's that important, and there are elements of our sexuality that if it's not a match with your partner, maybe you're not the best partners, right? Or maybe you can find it in some other way.
Yeah.
Right? Read books about it.
But your partner is not entitled to please you in the ways you want, unless they want to.
Yes. Yeah, because in fact, doing something that you find repulsive or horrible is trauma, and then you're inflicting trauma on your partner or on yourself if you're going along with doing something that you really don't like. And it's going to turn you off sex. And I've seen so many people who have stopped liking sex because they have done things that they didn't actually enjoy.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, genuinely with consent.
Yeah, like in high school and like the like early 20s, late teens, early 20s, like pretty much every single AFAB person who I was friends with was like, I fucking hate sucking dick, because they were just forcing themselves to like deep throat the fuck out of it and like gag everywhere and like.
Oh, yeah, horrible. So that's why, the why and the how. Why are these young girls subjecting themselves to an unpleasant sexual encounter? Generally because they think they should, or that's what they've seen on porn. We're doing another show on porn soon, aren't we? Thank God, it's so important. The why is not a healthy, authentic why. It's a damaging, traumatizing why. Yeah. And a very common client type I see, particularly amongst women, young women, AFABs, as you call them, is that they have been doing things that they thought they should be doing that is actually traumatizing. And whenever, particularly if you're doing something to your body, something is entering your body and it's not wanted, it's not invited, it's not being enveloped. It's going to be trauma and you're going to stop liking it and hating it.
Yeah.
So that's why the why, and then the how. So even if you do decide that, yes, giving oral sex, fellatio is something that you want to do, well, how do you want to do it in a way that is mutually pleasurable? Because it can be mutually pleasurable and be absolutely fantastic, but it's the way that you do it.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I found that made it better for me was being able to tell my male partner, be like, hey, I need to actually hear that you like it, because if you're silent, I'm just doing this thing and I have no idea if you're liking it or not, and then I get really stressed. And then I was like, oh, he's enjoying it. Cool. What if I did this? Oh my God, he likes that, Yeah. Anyway, so there's a little hint for you.
Thank you for the fellatio hint, my darling.
Yeah, but there were so many things that made me feel safe enough to be able to do that,
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So the why and the how, right, is so important for what you decide that you want to experience.
And what can you do? People, let me tell you, there are lots of things you can do.
So there's some general categories that I will go through, and these are all on the blog post that we're going to put at the bottom, right? So there are the positions, right? There are only 4 main positions really for intercourse.
Sutra.
For intercourse. Yeah, man on top, woman on top, side by side from behind. And then everything else is just variations.
What do you think of the Kama Sutra?
I think the Kama Sutra is beautiful.
Oh, really? You like it? Cool.
Yeah. Because it's all, so much of it is about the female pleasure, because without that, you're not going to have couple pleasure, right? Yeah. So, if you're thinking about positions, don't try and do like, the inverse wheelbarrow or whatever, because you might hurt yourself. A lot more of it is about sort of like how you're moving your legs a little bit, like how you're moving your pelvis.
Yeah, totally. Like subtle position shifts.
Subtle
yeah.
shifts. But to be able to sort of like, just kind of move yourself a little bit as you're going, rather than just like, okay, now we're go man on top and now flip her over and now it's from behind.
Yeah.
It's really like a dance, like flowing, and talk about it. Yeah, like, how do we move from this position to that position? Or in the moment, kind of like, hey, how about I'm just going to move my leg there, sweetheart. Could you just move? Right? That's why you need to be able to talk, because otherwise it just becomes really awkward and then you're stuck in your head like, shall I move to this position? Or
And it's also, rather than like actual like physical, like, I don't know, fucking reverse cowgirl or whatever. It's also like, how does it feel?
Yes.
How does the penis, I don't know, straight sex, for example, for you.
Yeah.
Here we go. Inclusive language. How does the phallus feel in my vagina at this angle? What if we moved it slightly to the right? That's a different position exploration as well.
Yeah.
It's not just like this like huge big thing. You just little subtle shifts.
It's so much of it is this subtle stuff.
So we've got positions.
We've got props. There are all sorts of props that you can use to, you mentioned the cushion. Like, when you're on your back, whoever's on their back can put a cushion underneath. Applies to any gender.
Do you remember when I was like 19 and you just came into my room one day with a cushion and you were just like, I think you should put this over your face sometimes to just be a little quieter. You're like mother, like daughter, just scream into the pillow.
Yes, I always say to guys when they're like, why are there so many pillows on the bed and why the little pillow? And I'm like, the little pillow, that's there to, you can yell into it when you're in the throes of passion and then people in the house.
Yeah. And it's like a little silk one, highly recommend. Other props are like obvious, like dildos and toys.
Dildos, vibrators that you might want to use while you're playing. All those sorts of toys are good, but also big on like silk scarves or restrainty type things. Oh, that's another category. I'll save that for when I get there, right? But there's all sorts of things. Even like kind of music is a prop in a way. Lighting is a prop.
I think I've talked about this on the pod before, but at one of your retreats that boyfriend and I went on, we did forks in the fridge.
Yeah,
that was good.
Forks in the fridge.
Yeah, cold forks. Then
cold forks.
Like,
use
it. And he would wear a blindfold. Anyway.
Yeah, well, that sort of comes under another one of the titles is the sensory play, playing with, temperature, warm and cold. Fork thing is, running the fork over your skin, like that can feel really good. Spoons, go into the kitchen, go into the bathroom. They're the best places, but you can find all sorts of sensory stuff.
And all sorts of places.
All sorts of places, yeah. Places is another one.
Yeah.
Of course, the bedroom is where most people have most of their sex, and fair enough, make sure you've got a really nice bed, really important, and all those cushions. So really make sure that your bedroom is set up for, love nests and sexual sensory play. But like take it out of the bedroom. Think about different places that you can do it.
Or like
something different.
Yeah. One of my favorite pieces of advice that you gave me, I don't remember when I got it, but it was start having sex standing up instead of lying down. Usually it transitions into a horizontal moment, but that was a good one.
Yeah. Standing up's great. The clothing that you wear is really important. A lot of people just automatically get naked.
Oh, right. Yes.
Yeah, which is great, of course. But sometimes it's nice to, leave something on. The French term déchébelé. When you've kind of half got your clothes off, like that can be kind of sexy. Or, you've got a robe on and so you can feel underneath the robe and, like the clothing becomes a little bit of the experience as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Dress your masculine people up, guys.
Oh,
Don't leave it to the feminine side of things.
Yeah. Or you might want to play with some stuff like one of you's still fully dressed while the other one's totally naked. There can be some kind of
power
that comes
exchange.
With a power exchange. Oh, that's another one of the ones. Power exchange. Yes, I'm going ahead of myself in my list here. But, there's some really cool ways that between two people who, who love each other or who, want to consensually play together.
Yeah.
Where you can play with, dominance and submission and control and all that sort of stuff. But again, this is getting into some of those more dangerous areas. So dangerous if it's not safe, right? So you got to talk about and have an idea about how you want to play in that space. And, you can well find all kind of things that are fun.
Yeah. I'm just going to list them off in the name of time, but stop me if you feel like there's an important point.
Yes.
So massages.
Oh, yeah, massages. So spend time. You like touching your bodies and...
Yeah, and really great gift. I sort of did it with my ex, not really, but sort of. Massage course together.
Oh, yeah.
Learn how to give each other real massages.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I've had clients who've, I remember one in particular, a couple really bored with their sex life. They just decided that Friday night was going to be massage night. And then they created, really beautiful space in there. But like they transformed their bedroom and started having massage and generally turned into sex as well. But the intent and what drew them to that change was massage.
Fetishes.
Look, sometimes there's something just particular that just turns you on, I remember one guy, an older guy actually, and he just discovered that he really loved the texture of fabric and having fabric on him and even rolling himself up in it. And like it was something that really turned him on.
Slay.
Yeah, there's all sorts of things,
That's different. I haven't heard of that before.
Like another common one is like keeping your shoes on, your high heels.
Shoes on?
Yeah, keeping your high heels on while you're having sex.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right. I was thinking more of like a businessman with his
leather
shoes and stuff.
Well, look, if that turns you on as well.
Sorry, not to kink shame.
No, not at all. Some people have sort of kind of out there kind of fetishes. They like to be furries and pretend that they're animal furry toys and dress up like that. Look, if that's your thing, like, yeah. Speaking of dress up, have we done dress ups, role plays?
Yeah.
A lot of people like role plays. I actually knew a couple who they like role plays so much they actually read scripts.
Wow.
Yes.
Not improv, taking it out of the improv space.
Yeah.
Wow.
But even simple little things, sometimes you can just spice it up a little bit by, going out on your date night, but meeting at the restaurant and maybe even just pretending it was the first time that you've met. Yeah. Or staying somewhere overnight and pretending that one of you is the paid escort. Like just stuff like that. It can just be lots of fun.
Erotic talk.
Erotic talk, absolutely. Like tell each other stories. Turn each other on with your stories either before you have sex or while you're having sex or listening to stories. There's podcasts now that read them aloud to
There actually are, and they're all on Spotify. Like search up kinky stories or kinky bedtime or like sexy sensual Spotify, dude.
Wow. So there you go. And like having a good story going, you can just be having like very normal sex, but it just adds this extra element. Like that's the thing, like a lot of these things just add extra, whether it's the lighting or the music or the location or the Spotify sexy talk.
Yeah.
You might still be doing your normal, kissing and fondling and fucking, but it just shifts it.
Taking photos or in movies.
Yeah, that can be a lot of fun, like set it up as a bit of a sexy, photo shoot, if that's what you like. Look, some people even like posting these things online. There's various sites where you can post your personal stuff. If you want, otherwise, you can just have a very safely locked file so the kids don't accidentally look at it. And keep it for yourself, or just delete it as soon as you've done it. If it's just the taking of it,
the being recorded.
Yeah, this can be very erotic.
Threesomes, foursomes, moresomes.
Well, yes, you don't have to limit it to just the two of you if you both mutually agree that you'd like to try some others. So
sex parties.
I think we might even do an entire episode on this sometime, but you do need to plan this in advance. This is not something to, oh my God, we've got the neighbours over and we all happen to be drunk, so let's swap. No. It sounds like a cliche, but I really have had a lot of clients who have done that sort of thing and it has not gone well.
So there's a few ideas for you.
Yes.
There's a lot more.
Yeah, it's kind of, you just get creative. Get talking.
How would you recommend people access more more ideas like this? Is there somewhere specific you would send them?
Well, look, I mean, they can go to this blog post of mine. Look, I do suggest you just go to your own imaginations. Humans have got these incredible brains. And keep in mind that your brain is reflecting your feeling. That's why this whole embodiment thing is so important. And as we've been talking about, a lot of it is just kind of subtle little shifts. It doesn't have to be this whole crazy out there sort of thing. But you can get inspiration by, listening to the stories, reading erotic books, seeing erotic movies and so forth.
Yep.
But you'd be surprised at how much you can pick up just by starting to talk and seeing where your conversation goes to.
Should we summarize that? Nah, fuck it. They've listened. Yeah, they know who, what, when, where, who, how, what, blah, blah. You know,
why, how, what? Why, what, how? Why, what, how? Remember why, what, how?
Yes. Oh, and make sure you do a debrief after. We should touch on that.
Absolutely, the debrief. If you are trying something new, then it's always good afterwards to kind of say, how'd you find it? What's it like? You can keep refining.
And sometimes that's actually where the best ideas come from. Because you've just, you know, you're in the space.
Yeah.
And always aftercare.
Aftercare.
Important.
Absolutely. Have a nice cuddle. Have a check-in.
So have fun expanding your play.
Absolutely.
Hope it goes great for you all. I'm sure it will.
There's actually 2 blogs. I wrote one on the what and one on the how.
Yeah. They'll both be down below. So question time.
Questions. Yes. I like this bit because I never know what they are.
It was just one because you already answered the
pegging one.
The peg one, yeah. So, how can I keep my relationship spicy?
Well, I'd ask you to ask yourself, what does spicy mean for you? But it's very broad. And the word spicy, it's a very generic word. So I ask the listener, what do you mean by spicy? Like, what is it that you are actually looking for? Yes. And take it to your partner. So you'll probably find that the words you're looking for are words more like connected, engaged, with an erotic interest.
And it's also like
desired.
Instead of what do you want, it's like, what do you actually have right now as well?
Yeah. Like, let's start with where we're at.
Do you have a bland, boring sex life? Is that why you feel like you need some spice, some oregano? Like,
exactly, And
so if you're
eating really boring, horrible food, just getting out some chili and sprinkling it on top, it's not going to make it good. In fact, it might even make something rather nice taste awful. Right? If you want to use chili in your ingredients, you got to know how to use it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good question, actually, based on what we're talking about here. Like, clearly, if someone is saying, how do we spice up our relationship? Basically, you're saying, well, we're feeling a little bored or a little staid, and we want to make it more interesting.
Or you want to be more engaged, I guess.
Yeah. Like, what's missing? What's missing? And then when you can start looking at how to fill it in.
Awesome. Well, that's it. Yeah. Season 2, episode 5, halfway through. Congratulations.
Yay. Thank you for coming on this journey with us. Love it. Love your feedback. Love your questions. Love your comments.
Yeah, it's good. Love the pod. I release these episodes on Fridays.
Yes.
Confirmed. Fridays. Release day. Friday fun day. So we'll see you next Friday.
Indeed.
And until then, I hope you love your life.